All right, welcome again, everybody. We're happy to have you with us today. This is the Preparing Students for Careers in Agriculture Dairy Edition webinar. I am Antonia Giuliano. I am a Senior Policy Advisor for Food and Dairy at the Department of Agriculture and Markets. I am joined by a great group of guest speakers today, which you'll all get a chance to hear from. To start things off, we're just going to run through some housekeeping topics and the agenda before we get started. Just bear with me while I share my screen. All right. All right, housekeeping. So you will all receive the slides via email after the webinar ends this afternoon. As you know, the webinar is being recorded right now and will be posted on the Department of Agriculture and Markets website. And after the webinar, you will receive an email from me asking you to share how we did today and give us some feedback in a post-webinar survey. Just quickly, here's a brief overview of the topics we'll be addressing today and the speakers we'll be hearing from. After we get through our main content and hear from all of our speakers, we will have a question and answer session. So as questions come to you throughout the next hour, feel free to send them to us in the chat feature on the WebEx, and we'll address your questions at the end of the webinar. And to kick things off, I'd like to introduce Deputy Commissioner of the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, Jennifer Trodden, who will share an introduction with us today.
So thank you, Antonia, and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. My name is Jennifer Trodden. I'm a Deputy Commissioner here at the department. This is a very exciting discussion that we're having today, specifically as it relates to preparing students for careers in agriculture, the dairy edition. So this is our first webinar that we've ever hosted, so we're very excited to be able to do that. And again, welcome everybody. So careers in agriculture, the background that I wanted to just kind of tee up our conversation here with is that New York State's agricultural industry continues to attract future generations of talented agricultural and food leaders who are prepared to participate in a workforce that is rapidly developing alongside emerging technologies and ever-changing consumer demands. Farmers are an aging population, though, with the average age of New York farmers at 57 years old. Our young farmers, 35 years old or less than 9% of all the farmers that we have here in the state. And our U.S. military veterans represent about 8% of farmers. So here, through these efforts, kicking off these efforts today, we are committed here at the department to identify clear pathways for job seekers and young people to gain high quality employment in the agriculture and food sectors. The food system is what we like to call it, to strengthen and grow our food supply system here in New York State in the future. Next slide. So the dairy edition, this is, like I said earlier, this specific conversation today is directly related to the jobs that are available in the dairy industry. And why? So agricultural careers go well beyond farming. And why dairy? Why are we focusing on dairy specifically? Because it is one of the top producers that we have here in the state. It's also, New York State is 5th in the nation when it comes to dairy production. So in addition to dairy farm workers, there's a growing demand for other dairy-related jobs like engineers, veterinarians, environmental scientists, researchers, business managers, for just some examples. And there are many pathways for students to enter dairy-related careers, from apprenticeship programs with no training requirements to college degree programs or undergrad, postgraduate programs, placing the next generation of scientists and engineers in the dairy industry. To tackle this specific problem and to identify some of those career pathways, we created a catalog. And this catalog is basically a free one-stop shop resource to easily connect students with programs and opportunities leading to successful dairy careers in New York State. Once you get the slides, this has a clickable link right to the catalog. And the catalog basically identifies all of the career pathways as well as how to enter into those pathways and really easily connect employees or potential employees with employers right here in our state. Today, we're going to give you an overview of the catalog and identify the various different career pathways that are available. And we're also very excited to have a team of agriculture and workforce experts to share their unique experiences and perspectives as it relates to careers in dairy. So as I mentioned, why dairy? Dairy is our largest single segment of New York State's agricultural industry. It generates half of the state's total agricultural income. We have nearly 3,200 dairy producers right here in the state, producing 15 billion pounds of milk annually. We are fifth largest in the nation, and the careers that we offer are many, and they're very competitive. They have very competitive salaries and benefits, and they range from types of jobs that require specialized skills to some types of jobs that don't need specialized skills, but we have training available to get you those skills. And with that, I think I kick it over to you, Antonia. Yep, thank you.
Yes. All right, everyone. So jumping right into our first pipeline, which is our pipeline to youth and future generations of workers. So most of our folks joining the call today are agriculture or CTE teachers, so many of this you'll probably be familiar with. Many schools in New York State offer academic programs and clubs focused on agriculture. Some of you may even be involved with these programs at your school or within your communities. We are encouraging dairy industry employers throughout the state to connect with these programs to set up visits, field trips, events to further immerse students in agriculture and continue to grow their interests in the industry. Some older students that participate in these programs may be interested in part-time positions, internships, traineeships, apprenticeships, or entry-level jobs in the dairy industry. So diving in a little bit deeper into these programs, first we have FFA. There are over 100 FFA chapters at schools throughout New York. FFA prepares students to enter the workforce with a wide range of skills and become future leaders in agriculture. If you do not have an FFA chapter at your school, we encourage you to visit the New York State FFA website, which is linked on this slide, for more information and resources to learn how to start an FFA chapter at your school. Next up is 4-H. Many of you are probably familiar with 4-H. Nearly 170,000 young people in New York participate in 4-H programs, whether it's through in-school or after-school programs, community clubs, or even 4-H camps. And as it relates to dairy, 4-H provides students opportunities to learn about dairy cattle and participate in dairy projects. Students learn a lot through these programs, including an understanding of the dairy and agriculture industries. They gain knowledge of biology, anatomy, and physiology, and an understanding of nutrition and business skills. Next up is MANNERS. That stands for the Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences. So this organization is a national society open to anyone with an interest in advancing in agriculture or science careers and professional development. In addition to professional manners chapters, which we encourage you to explore further as educators, Manners also has junior chapters for students in grades 7 through 12. And at this time, there are no junior Manners chapters in New York, but we want to change that with you. So please visit the Manners website for more information and resources for establishing a junior Manners chapter in your school. And last but certainly not least is New York Agriculture in the Classrooms. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this organization. You probably use many of the tremendous resources that this organization provides to agriculture and CTE teachers across the state. Last count, over 350 ag teachers currently participate in Ag in the Classroom. So more than 15,000 students across the state can gain a deeper understanding of different sectors of the ag industry, including dairy. And we're very happy to be joined today by the Director of New York Agriculture in the Classroom, Katie Carpenter. It's been a pleasure to get to know Katie over the past couple of months and learn about the many resources and programs her and her team provide to teachers. So, Katie, I will turn the microphone over to you.
Thanks so much, Antonia. Well, thank you all for being on. It's great to see so many familiar faces on the call and also to be sitting amongst the incredible panelists that are here on the call today. And as always, a big thank you to our friends and partners at the Department of Agriculture and Markets for including us in these conversations about dairy, about agriculture, and the future of our workforce. So I'm really excited to talk to you about a topic that is really what I consider the heartbeat of our work in agricultural education. New York Agriculture in the Classroom is an outreach program of Cornell University, and our goal is to help pre-K through 12th grade teachers use food and agriculture as a lens for learning. We're able to give teachers the lessons, the tools, and the access to resources to give their students truly authentic learning experiences, helping them connect the real world to their core academic concepts that they have to learn in the classroom. We help make those concepts come alive as students get their hands, their bodies, their minds engaged in that topic and learning without even knowing that they're learning. But I think what's also really exciting and completely unique to New York is that we are a member, New York Ag in the Classroom, we're a member of this continuum of agricultural education in the formal school setting, where we, New York Ag in the Classroom, reach the teachers who have a limited background or no background in food and agriculture. And our sister programs work directly with the teachers who are certified to teach agriculture. Those are the 350 plus educators that Antonia mentioned, which many of you are on our call today. And our team also provides the leadership and direction for New York FFA, giving the students working as a leadership development arm and giving those students a chance to network and engage with industry without even knowing that they're building their own personal network in the food and ag industry. So working together, we really hope the students have the opportunity to engage with agriculture throughout their entire high school career from pre-K through 12th grade. And the end goal is the hope that we create this agriculturally literate generation, an entire generation who can understand and communicate the source and value of agriculture as it impacts their daily lives. And I think that's really exciting. And one of those motivating factors is that the students who are impacted and touched by the programs that Sherry, Julia, and I are directing give those students a chance at looking at a career that they maybe have never thought of. And that's really our why. What is our why? What is the reason we lead these efforts? And it's because we know a few things. We know that the students sitting in our classrooms today are about 4 generations removed from agriculture. That means they don't have a grandfather who owns a dairy farm where they spend their summers milking cows. We know that they maybe don't have an aunt who owns an apple orchard where they have to help with the U-pick operations on the weekends. And it's pretty unlikely that the students in our classrooms today likely don't have a peer who comes from a farm family where they go over for a birthday party or a sleepover. So those natural opportunities to connect with food and agriculture just really aren't as apparent to today's student. We also know that we have a growing world population. Just pop in the chat, who can guess, no Googling, what's our current world population today? Pop it in the chat. I want to see what you think it is today and 2023. Let's see, a couple guesses coming in. Good guesses, good guesses. Yeah, we're about 7.5 billion people on this planet right now. Now, is Julia's jumping to it over here, but by the year 2050, what is the expected world population? And Julia says 10, that's her guess. Any other guesses? What do we think by the year 2050? 9, Siri says 9, Julia says 9. Yeah, we're about Current estimates are about 9.8 billion people on this planet. So what does that matter? Why do we care? Well, we care because that is the largest population growth our world has ever seen in the shortest amount of time. We could spend a whole lot of time, more than the 5 minutes that Antonia has given me, talking about what implications that has and how we need to prepare for that, but we won't get into it. I'll let you think about that. Maybe have those conversations with your students. We also know that 20% of the American workforce is somehow involved in a career in agriculture. And we know that the opportunities in dairy, especially here in New York, are really endless. But will our students even know that these careers exist? Will they know? Will they know how needed they are in our food and agriculture industries without consistent exposure and engagement with career-based experiences from starting at the earliest point of their school career? Will they have relationship building opportunities with professionals in agriculture? Will they have a chance to have hands-on experiences? So we really feel strongly that there is power to engage students at every point in their school careers that can lead them to a fulfilling career. We have to build their interests. We have to build their agricultural literacy from the time they're in elementary school until the time they leave. We have the power, we hope to impact that time period in their lives, that formative time period in their lives. And what are those strategies for engagement across grade levels? Whether it's in our high school ag education classes or working with general education elementary school teachers. The hope is that we can have as many repeated exposures to hands-on or project-based learning experiences as possible. We hope that we could bring industries to our classroom, bring industry professionals to our classrooms, and we can bring students to the places where ag careers are happening so they can see it in action. We want to make your students become the subject matter experts and teach that information to others. So we really, just to wrap up the few moments that I have here, just really implore you to think about how you can help build a full school community around food and agriculture. So you as the agriculture teacher sitting here in the room today, listening to this information about the opportunities that Deputy Commissioner Trodden talked about, the power, the numbers that we have available to us, and the careers we could impact. Think about that and how you can translate that information to get others in your school district excited about using food and agriculture. Give your students the opportunity to think about dairy in their lives and in their communities a little bit more. And we encourage you to use tools like our curriculum matrix you can find on our website that I know Antonia is going to send out. Take part in our grants, in our trio of programs. Connect with myself, connect with our teacher services team with Sherry Lighthall and our FFA director, Julia Toloski, to learn a little bit more. We are always here to help you wherever you are on that journey, because it's our end goal as we all work together to make sure that we have the most agriculturally literate generation possible. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Katie. You started us off on a great note with some thought-provoking questions. So thank you for that. All right. Transitioning to our next pipeline, which focuses on programs that prepare youth with the skills they need to enter the workforce upon graduation. Here in New York, we have hundreds of schools, we have colleges, universities offering a variety of different academic programs focused on agriculture. First up, we're going to talk about the high school agriculture programs, and some of these programs are also available to our middle school students in certain districts and regions of the state. And at the high school level, there are 3 types of programs that provide students access to agriculture-related curriculum. First off are our BOCES programs. So as many of you know, we have 37 BOCES in New York that offer agriculture and animal science programs. A listing of those programs are featured in the catalog. So if you're unfamiliar with which BOCES in your region offer agriculture-related programs and curriculum, I encourage you to take a look at that list. Also within that list is a listing of career and technical education, or CTE, courses offered in middle school and high schools throughout the state. Many of those CTE courses are focused on agriculture or animal science, but there also are a few schools offering some unique courses like urban farming, horticulture and plant science, and conservation. And lastly is New York State Pathways in Technology, or PTech. There are dozens of P-TECH programs located throughout the state in different high schools, preparing thousands of students for jobs in technology, manufacturing, healthcare, and finance. And on the higher education level, we have colleges and universities throughout New York offering undergraduate and postgraduate agriculture academic programs, as well as micro-credential programs. And a few of those focus areas are on this slide. So we have everything from agricultural business to veterinary science, agricultural education. Maybe you want to be one of those ag teachers that work with Katie and her team every day, plant sciences. Many of these programs are located at SUNY campuses, but there are a few private colleges and universities throughout New York that offer agriculture-related curriculum. And again, a listing of all of those programs can be found in the catalog. So as you meet with students, as you learn about students' interests, and if they're expressing an interest in any of these topics, we encourage you to share those pages of the catalog with them to point them to programs in the state that align with their interests. All right, and last up, before I introduce our next guest speaker, I just want to talk to you very briefly about the registered apprenticeship pathway. So here listed on this slide are some agriculture-specific trades and other trades that are currently available as a registered apprenticeship program here in New York State. And the registered apprenticeship program is run by the New York State Department of Labor. And it is a formal training relationship between an employer, which is known as the sponsor, and an employee known as the apprentice. So during this time that the apprentice works with the sponsor, the apprentice learns a trade and is a full-time paid employee. And the sponsor gains a professional, independent, skilled worker. And we're happy to be joined today by Chris White, Deputy Commissioner for Workforce Development at the Department of Labor. And Chris will share more information about the apprenticeship program and other Department of Labor programs to support your students. So Chris, I know you have some slides to share, so I will stop sharing my screen so you can go ahead and share yours.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Hi, everybody. How's it going? So yeah, really excited to talk with you about registered apprenticeship today, and some really awesome work that I think is happening across the state, and it specifically to agriculture. This is a relatively new formalized training model. It is not a relatively new formalized training model in what we typically think of apprenticeship programs. Usually think of building construction trades like carpenters or plumbers, those sort of jobs. But we've really focused a lot in recent years in expanding it to all sorts of different occupations in healthcare, in manufacturing, in IT, and in agriculture as well. So definitely a lot of opportunity here. And I think you all as ambassadors for this message to businesses in your community is really going to help kind of grow the program. But very much like Antonio said, it is a real job from day one. It is, people sometimes think about apprenticeship, they're like, oh, it's just like an internship. And in some ways, sure, but it's fundamentally different. It is it's a job. So you get paid day one to start. But the real kind of like difference is that it has actual regimented on-the-job training and very specific curriculum requirements that get met. They're all approved by the state education department. So there's on-the-job training and hours requirements, but then there's also outside of work instruction that happens as well in the classroom, off hours. So you kind of get the real hands-on experience and the theory behind it, which is really great. For the apprentice, there's no cost to it too, which is really wonderful. So, unlike taking on maybe like a college loan debt or something like that, this does not come with that associated with it. But exactly what you heard. So you have a program sponsor, usually that's the business who actually is saying, look, I'm going to sponsor this person. I'm paying for their training and the creation of the program. And it is very standardized. So the whole idea is I'm going to learn how to do this at this particular job over a couple of years, for example, and each different trade varies. But then I'm going to be able to take those skills and continue on. Once you finish an apprenticeship, you become what they call a journey worker. So you can continue on with that business. But the theory is that you would be able to take those skills and go anywhere in the country and have an actual nationally certified, recognized credential. We don't see that happening. People don't pick up and move like that. But the whole idea is that, someone could be trained in another state and they would meet the same kind of requirements as someone trained here. And that's really what we're going for, is a high quality of standard with folks who are taking part in this. The one thing that makes it, I think, a little challenging for high school students is you have to be 16. Do not fret, though, because I have a couple of other things to talk about, too. But 16 or older is the minimum for anyone in registered apprenticeship programs. And often I think really what it comes down to is setting people up for what these training programs could be. If not in high school, maybe they can't get away, certain parts of the day enough, but getting them the kind of skills to prepare them for it. There are also things called pre-apprenticeship programs as well, which are less formalized, but still prepare people for the right kind of skills. I'm sure you will not be shocked to hear the type of skills that are most in demand, which are, a lot of professional skills like time management, things like that, communication, but then basic math, those type of skills are really important for really any baseline of an apprenticeship program. How big are the programs that we have? We have like 17,000, actually more than 17,000 people in apprenticeship programs today across the state of New York. There's a lot. And they come in about 950 or so programs. And I always say from plumber to piano builder, because Steinway, the piano maker, actually has a registered apprenticeship program. So it's way more than what I think people traditionally think about it. Specifically in the dairy industry, though, as you saw, there are three major kind of programs for a registered apprenticeship that we think might be really relevant. I have a little bit more information on the screen. I'm not going to read it all, but dairy specialist, you can see it's more about the kind of facilities there and managing them and what that whole process looks like. The processor is more the manufacturing side, so you can learn all about the different manufacturing processes. Each of those are 3-year programs, and then there's a plant maintenance program as well, which is really vast knowledge for anyone to really run a facility. So we say plant maintenance, but it could certainly be for a dairy plant maintenance as well. You can learn a lot of really wide-ranging skills in this type of program too. Here are other kind of dairy adjacent, but very ag-specific type of programs that are also there. You can see it down the list, but I love like the brewer distiller kind of cool program that's in Schenectady. But there are a lot of other programs here that are really relevant to, something as we visit a lot of farms and we hear about the need for all of these different jobs on the farms. And, a lot of these folks, when they go through the programs, they stay. Which I think is really important. It's not just learn and then disappear. It's you learn, and that because the business invested in you, you're really excited about staying on. So we have a website here that goes through all these different things. I saw a question about the hours requirements for some of the programs too. All of that is spelled out for each different specific training program. Each one's a little bit different. The hours for in the classroom versus on the job as well, but there are breakdowns. And I'm happy to, if you have interest, connect you into any of our specialists in the apprenticeship side. We have funds that we've committed to really help businesses grow this. So we have a tax credit available. That's one piece of the funding, and that's something that runs through 2026, but will definitely get re-upped because it has been a number of times in the past. And then we have a grant program where businesses outside of building construction trades, so hint, hint, agriculture, could apply, and it's up to $300,000 with a cap per apprentice, but it can cover wages and a lot of other like materials and curriculum development as well for different apprenticeship programs. Okay, but I don't work with 16-year-olds. I work in middle school, and what am I going to do? Well, I will give you great advice, which is the more we can get the word out into our ag employment world about apprenticeship programs and how awesome they can be, especially with the connections you all have. Would love to do that. We can talk about more how to arm you with information, but if you're interested in that, would love to talk more. Definitely, talk about, the support for regional farms, especially supply chain businesses, that feed into them. And then definitely the production side of the house as well. So really all different parts of the, supply demand, that this is really where apprenticeship programs, I think, will do really well into the future. I can't stress enough the idea about career exploration. We need more of this for young people. I know you all know this well, but like I can't say it loud enough from the rooftops, but we have to get more people aware of the different career opportunities, and especially the parents too. Just to venerate the different type of career training models. Internships may not be registered apprenticeships, but they also play a role, much like career exploration, getting young people out into the work world in professional work settings and allowing them to experience that. Can't stress that enough. And then talk about with students career building skills. So you may not be ready for an apprenticeship. You may not be old enough for an apprenticeship. You may not want to make the decision to start an apprenticeship right away. But what are the skills you can build today, tomorrow, next month, next year to really prepare you for a career into the future? Talking with young people about what stackable skills really mean, I think is vital, because honestly, the future, we're talking about jobs, that may not exist today that are going to be available in 5 or 10 years on farms and then many other industries. So what are the skills that are still going to be very relevant, and how can we make sure we're teaching those? And then also adjacent career interests. So someone may not have a direct, I want to work in a dairy plant, but they may have, a tech head. So maybe building the machines that are going to end up there someday, those could be really of interest. So just kind of thinking about what that is. Last piece I really wanted to talk about, because this is just super cool. We have invested in virtual reality a lot, and we have headsets across the state in our career centers, and we have designed specific career awareness modules and training modules. We have them for agriculture. At the state fair, we had a bunch of different industries. We have 5 industries highlighted at our booth, where people of all ages, here's a young man sitting in the chair, but adults galore, as well as kids, put the headsets on. We had 3,500 people take part in our career awareness headsets, which is really cool during the state fair. And best part about it is the top one was agriculture. There's a lot of young people, especially, who are really interested in this career path, and we're happy to be part of the conversation and pushing all of this forward. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you for getting us thinking about how to promote career exploration. All right, folks. So I'm going to share my screen again. All right. So as you've heard today, there are many pathways or pipelines available for students to enter the dairy industry. But we know that not many people, including our students, are aware of those pipelines. They're not sure how to access the industry, or uncertain, or maybe don't have the confidence to know that they're making the right step. So that's why we created this catalog, to help the industry and our students, you as our educators and our communities, more easily identify those pipelines. So here on this screen, we just have a visual explaining most of the topics that we've talked about today, and some more topics that you can find within our catalog. And we encourage you to share this catalog with your fellow educators, as well as with your students, parents, guardians, the dairy farmers, processors in your community. We can work together to demystify how to enter this industry and to educate our students and job seekers that there is more to agriculture than farming alone. And to give you some examples of what career options are available in the industry beyond farm working alone, we've created this chart that's still a work in progress that will soon be added to the catalog as a new page, providing some of the many career opportunities available to students and what their annual average wage may look like. So in addition to these career opportunities on the screen here, there are jobs available in the industry in areas like business management, communications, human resources, public relations, finance, marketing. If you don't think that your interest aligns somewhere in the ag industry, I think we'd like to prove you wrong. There's so many skills and jobs that are needed by this industry. And many youth and job seekers don't think that their interest or skill set aligns with the industry, but it does. So as we transition to our next group of speakers, we're going to play the short 3-minute video that was created by the State Department of Labor. So thank you, Chris, and your team. And that showcases the wide range of job opportunities in the dairy industry.
The dairy industry in New York State is an incredible industry. It's one of the top dairy producing states in the nation. It's on the cutting edge of technology. There's lots of earning potential. It's a great industry to build a life on.
In today's workplace, we're more and more looking for people that embrace technology, that are able to work with technology and maintain that technology.
A lot of people don't know that there are so many scientific roles in the agriculture industry, but we need more people like me who are food scientists to make sure that consumers, people eating and drinking things every single day, have the best and safest food that they possibly can.
You can work with equipment, you can work with these robots, you can work just analyzing data, but there's so many different facets of our industry, so many different opportunities for young people now to be involved in agriculture than ever before.
When I first came to Argyle Cheese Farmer, all I had was my high school diploma. Now my employer is paying for me to get certified in the pasteurization of milk, which will help me get into a higher position within the company and help make a better product.
In my experience in the agriculture industry compared to the others, this has been a better place to work. It's been a better culture.
A lot of people think that there's not a whole lot of money to be made in the industry, but when you're able to adapt and change and make new efficiencies, it can be a pretty lucrative thing. There's not necessarily a glass ceiling for how high you can go in the industry.
There's such a wealth of careers and opportunity in agriculture, and many of them are very high earning potential careers as well. Literally anything that you want to do, there's a need for your interest in agriculture.
All right. Just bear with me, folks, as I close out of this video here. All right, so as a reminder, we will be sending the slide deck to all of our webinar participants, so you'll have access to all the information and links that we covered today, including that great video. So now we are going to transition to our final section of this webinar before we enter the Q&A session. So I am pleased to introduce our next guest speaker, Terry DeNitto of DeNitto Farms in Marcy, New York, which is located in Oneida County. Terry, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. First, I want to say that was a great video. Crystal did a great job with that. I met Crystal a week or so ago in Lake George doing a caucus panel for the legislators. That was a great video. I enjoyed that. So yes, we have a dairy farm right in the middle of the state of New York. We have about 1,200 head of cattle here on a dairy farm, and we have about 1,400 acres. We have employees. We have about 10 part-time and full-time employees. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can hook the younger generation, the younger students, as opposed to all of you that are most on this webinar are the high school. You have the FFA clubs, you're in agriculture classes. I have an event on our farm called Farm Fest. It's geared toward 4th and 5th graders. They come here and go through between 20 and 22 different agriculture stations, most of which are involved in the dairy industry. We do bring in other animals because I do want to teach them about the other agriculture animals that we have in the state. But a lot of it is a nutritionist, a veterinarian. They see the milking parlor. They interact with the calves. They do drones are huge. The drone industry here, we have a great program. I'm on the board at our local college implementing our drone program for kids that are coming into college. But these are 4th and 5th graders that come to this event, and they're being taught, believe it or not, by a lot of the FFA clubs that we have here in Oneida County. And it's amazing the interaction that your students in high school can have with these younger students, because the younger students love it. They love looking up to these high school kids, and they interact with them much better. It's a great opportunity for your classes to do something like that. And most counties have the same kind of thing. They have an on-farm day where they go to a dairy farm. If you don't have that in your area, a lot of dairy farms actually have and host farm tours. So I would seek out these farms and see if your group can participate in these farm tours with the younger students to help plant the seed about agriculture. Another thing you can do that I encourage is to do a adopt a classroom. You as a high school FFA club or agribusiness classroom can adopt one of these younger classrooms, 4th, 5th grade. We're doing a 2nd grade adopt a calf, and you can work with them all year on certain things involved in the dairy industry or in agriculture, or you can hop around and do different things every month with them. But it's a great way to get this younger generation, these younger students that haven't gotten into, it's also a good recruitment for the FFA clubs. A lot of schools, my school, we're in Oriskany here in this district. We don't have an FFA chapter here. I would love it if they did. Hopefully someday they will. We have a lot of interest here as well. The younger kids, they don't understand that it's not just owning a farm. They think of, oh, a farmer, I've got to own the farm. And I'm a substitute teacher there, so I am able to interact with them and instruct them about all the different job opportunities available to them. So I'm planting the seed early, and then as they get into the high school settings, that needs to be encouraged and reiterated to them so that they understand that there is a path for them other than what they're thinking about in agriculture. There are so many different opportunities, but I really encourage FFA, 4-H, your agriculture classes to reach out to those younger students in those younger grades and interact with them, adopt them, if you will, and help encourage their thought process into maybe being in the agriculture industry as they grow up.
Excellent. Thank you, Terry. Some good tips for engaging the younger generation. So our next speaker is Kim Skelly, who joins us from Newark, New York, and his farm, Elvi Farms, which is in Wayne County in Newark, New York. Kim, over to you.
Thank you, Antonio. I'm going to go through, describe our farm and what we do and some of the job roles within our farm, and then how I connected some of the dots with some of our student employees, and then maybe broaden it out to businesses that we work with, just to give a variety of all the type of opportunities there are in the dairy industry. So Elvi Farms, we have about 2,200 cows. We milk on 2 different farms that are about 6 miles apart. We also raise about 2,200 head of young stock, so calves up through to about 22, 23-month-old heifers before they have their own calf. To do all this, let me mention also 3,500 acres of cropland to feed all the animals. So to do all this, there's a staff, including the 3 owners, of 40. And out of that 40, about 14 are milkers. So we don't have robots yet. I think that's definitely something in the future. So therefore, we have milkers, and it's really kind of an around-the-clock operation. We have at least 6 people at the farm 24/7, and that includes both farms. The next group of people I would call are the animal care people. So we have 3 people that feed cows. So they're equipment operators largely. They have to understand some level of nutrition for dairy cows, and we mostly train that on farm. And then we have 9 what I call strictly animal care. So we have 1 person who uses an ultrasound to do pregnancy checks on cows. We have somebody, we try to do most of these things in-house. Hoof trimming. All cows get trimmed, 2 to 3 times a year, and sometimes there's cows with a foot problem or a lame cow that needs work as well. So every week we're trimming cows, and we have 2 people who do that, and there's training programs for those kind of roles, off farm as well as on farm. Inseminating cows, that happens every day, every week. We have maternity managers. So I think this was mentioned earlier about birthing center. Same thing, on average, we have about 7 to 8 calves born every day. We have a maternity manager on 24/7, and they fill in the gaps when there's not cows calving with a little bit of other work. And then we have what we call a herdsman, and a herdsman, he really does like physical exams on cows that are possibly sick. And how he determines that is by looking at technology. We have transponders on cows, and so every 8 hours, all the data is downloaded, and that person can look at lists of cows who maybe need attention to see if there's a problem or not. So those are all, you know, positions that require training, either ahead of being hired into that position or on the job training. And so I would say some of our milkers have progressed to those types of positions. That's just an opportunity for upward movement within. But we sometimes hire people directly into those positions as well. And the one last animal care department I didn't mention was calf feeding. So we have a calf manager and then 2 people who work under that calf manager. So in that case, obviously some supervisory skills are needed as well. Then I'll switch to the other side of the road, as we call it, is our equipment operators. Everybody who does the crop work, you know, planting, cultivating, manure spreading, the harvest, which is chopping, packing, trucking, all of those kind of things. And so there's 10 people in that area. And that's not entirely what they do because we're not always in the fields. When they're not in the fields, there's 2 of them who are mechanics. So they're troubleshooting problems with equipment. There's 2 of them who are like equipment maintenance, just kind of upgrading parts of all of our equipment. Then there is 3 guys who we call building maintenance. So they're taking care of all the systems on the farm, meaning fans, curtains on barns, electrical systems, some carpentry work, some plumbing. Seems like there's always projects to be done. So they're kind of multi-talented people. And sometimes it gets too specialized and we have to go outside and hire an electrician or a plumber for something more complicated than what our crew can do. So let me move to the student group. We have 5 students who are all high school, and we get them pretty much 2 avenues. One is friends of family, and some is through the conservation program, which I think has been renamed at BOCES to maybe large equipment operation or something like that. We have 2 of those, and they come in, they're quite good. They already know how to run a lot of equipment, and they have a sense of maintenance needed and mechanical skills and things like that. So we have a kind of a good pipeline with BOCES on that area and providing good feedback. And we've hired some of them on full time after they graduate, if that's what they're interested in. So as far as friends of the family, most of the time we're starting high school kids that are not from the conservation program into the calf feeding area. So if you're between 14 and 15, you cannot operate equipment. So therefore calves are smaller animals also. It's kind of a good area to start nurturing skills, patience, organization, learning biology and all the things that can you know, make a calf grow well. And then they'll graduate on from there at 16, then they're allowed to run equipment, which typically is like a skid steer to start with. We do entertain internship opportunities, typically from colleges. So Cobleskill and Cornell are the most typical, sometimes Morrisville. We have a team called the Dairy Challenge team from Cobleskill that will visit our farm. We've picked up some opportunities through that. I currently have a Cobleskill student I'm talking to about an internship next summer. So those kind of opportunities are for people who are off farm. They don't grow up on farms, but they had a neighboring farm that maybe they started working on, or it's our farm, and they get interested in the industry, and then they go away to college and get educated more in a certain area and become of more value. Now, those same educations will also help them in careers like a dairy nutritionist. Most farms have a dairy nutritionist that stops by the farm anywhere from 1 to 3 times a month, does all the balancing of rations on a computer, and is really a consultant for the farm. Veterinarians, crop consultants. And then probably a big area we need is just technology. A local business like Finger Lakes Dairy Service, I think could really use help in the technology area. So working with robots and working with computer systems on equipment, that kind of work. So those are those are a lot of the areas we look at and need, and I think we're pretty common across the industry in what those needs are. I guess the last thing I'll say is I sit here and I don't really look like a farmer very much, sitting here in my nice red plaid shirt. A lot of farmers need to be involved in the industry off the farm as well. So I'm on the state board of New York Farm Bureau, which requires, a few days away every couple months, and that's where I am this week. And it's important for all of us to be involved in things off the farm that help our industry. And Terry does the same thing, advocating for us in various ways, whether it be at the Dairy Birthing Center, at the State Fair, or other things. So I think I've covered everything. Is there any questions or anything someone suggests I missed?
Great, thank you, Kim. So that's a good reminder for our attendees. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. After I introduce our final speaker, we will have our Q&A session. So feel free to send your questions as they come to you in the chat box. So for our final speaker, I'm pleased to introduce Julia Smith. Julia is the Director of Workforce Development at Upstate Niagara Cooperative, and she is here to share the dairy processor perspective on workforce needs and how to engage with youth. Julia, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Antonia. So pleased to be here today, and I'm going to share a couple of slides. Wearing the hat of Director of Workforce for Industry, but spent 18 years as an agriculture teacher. So just really happy to have this space where I'm seeing government agencies and education and industry come together, because I think that's really what it's going to take for us to move this needle forward in a really progressive way. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Upstate Niagara, and I want to take a couple seconds and just talk about the scope, because I think a lot of times when we're trying to explain these careers to students, it's very hard to explain what it looks like, what it feels like, and how big some of these industries are and how much opportunity sits within them. So Upstate Niagara is a $1.5 billion company. We have about 1,700 employees. There's 8 manufacturing facilities scattered throughout New York State. A large hub is in Western New York. And we have about 264 member farms, and they're producing about 7.2 million pounds a day, or about 2.6 billion pounds annually. So that's a lot of milk going through there. And some of our key products are fluid milk, yogurt, cottage cheese, sour cream, chip dip, and we co-pack for a number of customers as well, especially in our specialty plant. So a lot of milk going through here, and a lot of opportunity for youth. So as I talk about some of the manufacturing jobs, I think one of the staggering statistics that I keep seeing in manufacturing is that we anticipate 4 million jobs in the next 10 years, and about half of those jobs are going to go unfilled. And so that's really impactful in the food industry. And as we think about the food chain and the food supply chain, making sure that we have individuals that can fill those jobs, really key. We have about 47 different positions posted within our company right now. On the production side, which is entry level, average about $22 an hour, all the way up to an annual salary on that production side, maybe like a plant manager of $140,000. And so just a smattering of some of the jobs that someone could have on the production side. Obviously, we're always hiring operators, and that's an entry-level job. We're providing on-the-job training. Lab techs, supervisors, really big need for people who can manage and supervise. Mechanics is one of our key concerns, so industrial maintenance techs as well. So mechanics on the distribution side, but also industrial maintenance technicians. That's a humongous focus for us right now. Plant managers, research and development in food science, QA, so quality assurance, engineering and automation, and again, distribution drivers, mechanics. So that's just a tiny cross section, and within those jobs, there's more subsections as well. I know as a teacher, it's just really hard to explain to students what that opportunity is. And I think someone earlier was talking about the skills that transfer. And that's really, I think, the name of the game right now is those transferable skills. But that kind of entry level, get your foot in the door as an operator for young folks starting at, 22, 23, $24 an hour with full benefits worth $10,000, full health insurance. That's a great, it's a great way to start. So, so on the non-production side, we have tons of jobs as well, and things like sales, entry level there, customer service reps, human resources, always looking for people who can relate to people and work with people. A training department is new at Upstate. My department, there's a department of 2 right now. We are posting 1 to 4 positions in the next couple weeks, and that's really just the beginning. Customer service, management on a director level, information technology, finance and accounting, food science. Again, we're talking those transferable skills. And that's the website link in case you're interested in looking at that cross section of careers. So to most teachers, this is almost going to be frustrating because you've seen this 1,000 times, right? And this is the really hard thing to teach in the classroom, especially those employability skills, those old-fashioned work skills, whatever you want to call them. But they are the name of the game, right? So show up with a good attitude, that ability to learn and the desire to learn, critical thinking, emotional skills, being able to work as a team, communicate, and initiative. And I can definitely say, as an agriculture teacher, I think we were some of the best out there at trying to create those venues to learn those skills. If it's practical hands-on learning, I think for me, it's just the students even taking care of the animal room, right? That whole, they were learning all those skills there, and it was often staggering how far behind they were sometimes in those skills. But a big hats off to you. I understand where we're starting in that and what needs to happen, and we're really interested in partnering and helping to build that pathway. On the other side, and we look at kind of more of the hard skills. So mechanical aptitude, we have a lot of need for that, and we're not alone in that, right? We're hearing that everywhere. Automation is going to be the name of our game. There's just not enough bodies to fill these jobs. So automation is absolutely going to be a direction we're heading in. And so we're going to need higher skilled people, which will have higher paying jobs. Microbiology, food safety, laboratory, I used to teach veterinary science, that micro unit that we taught. I'm like, if every one of our employees could have that unit, that would be super helpful for us. Management skills, troubleshooting is humongous, kind of back to that critical thinking, reading, writing, basic math, right? And customer service is actually a really big thing that we just did a needs assessment across the organization, and almost all of my directors talked about that need for good customer service skills. So I know we're kind of running a little late, and I tend to be long-winded, so I will stop there and leave the floor open for questions.
All right, thank you, Julia. So it is time for our question and answer session. So if anyone has any questions, please pop it over in the chat box. Or you can use the raise your hand feature on WebEx. I'll just give a moment for folks to enter their questions. And while we wait, Chris, maybe something that you can expand more on. I see that you had a conversation with Julia in the chat box about apprenticeships. And Julia's last comment was that apprenticeships are going to be such a powerful and necessary next step for our high school students, and we can help them pursue these apprenticeship programs, just like we promote 2- and 4-year degree programs. Can you talk a little bit about how you've seen that maybe in action currently, how different organizations or maybe even high schools are helping promote apprenticeship programs to high school students?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in the past it's been, we'll say since like the 90s, 80s, 90s, and working a lot with teachers, I know there's a lot of agreement around this. Is like we kind of failed everybody by saying everybody has to get a 4-year degree and that's it. The reality is we all know now that's very much not true. I really think part of the conversation has been turning in the last, like 5 years or so, really in a great way from, there are alternate pathways or alternative pathways to a 4-year degree. It's like, no, these are really wonderful pathways. So are college degrees. So is the military. Like all of these are different pathways to careers. And by the way, apprenticeship programs now are getting more enhancements where different institutions of higher ed are accepting training from apprenticeship to actually give you credit toward degree completion as credit for prior learning. So I think there's a lot more sophistication that's being recognized from apprenticeship programs. And I think the more we can venerate this as a really, fantastic training model for young people as they're leaving high school or even still in high school, depending on their career options, I think really is where we're seeing a lot, because we're seeing it happening. I think it just, can happen now more at scale.
Chris, if I can add on to that too a little bit, I did neglect to say that we have embraced apprenticeship at Upstate Niagara and working through our group sponsorship paperwork right now. But as a high school teacher, I've been a humongous, as a past high school teacher, proponent of apprenticeship and in creating it because I saw it as that next step for the students. We were really struggling to help students move to the next step, and we just didn't have a clear pathway. And I think that really paves that pathway. And it's just such a powerful tool, right? When we talk to students about, oh, well, you could go to college and we have all these things laid out for you, right? You're going to get an advisor, we're going to help pay for it, you're going to have training, and you're going to have housing and counseling. And then often in industry, we were not laying that pathway out for them. We were not offering the support tools. And so apprenticeship is one of those venues to do that. And that's some of the work that we're trying to do at Upstate too, is how else do we bring in support tools for those young folks so we don't keep losing them in that transition step.
And I think Julia hit, and I really want to underline some of the, we call them soft skills, professional skills, whatever that is. The more we can prepare young people when they're still in high school for any pathway after high school with those professional skills, I think is really key. The more we can kind of infuse them into existing curriculum that's out there is really important.
Can I add something on sourcing some of the students or getting them connected? There's a number of schools that have community to business coordinators within the school. And so they're kind of assigned to getting kids connected with businesses that are in the community for job shadowing and beyond that. And a lot of times it's just a matter of the agricultural world connecting with that community coordinator to make sure that, they know we're businesses out here also, and we will do the same.
I think too, though, I think one thing that we have to really be strong about is when we're talking to parents, if I'm a parent, I want to see a plan for my child. And so that's our responsibility. I'm gonna wear that industry hat and say as industry, that's part of my responsibility to provide that if I want to entice that student into a pathway that's non-traditional. We have to think a little bit different about that.
Agreed. Thanks, team. So we have a couple more questions that came in from Crystal. High school students are balancing a lot: sports, classes, application for colleges, full gamut. How can students balance an apprenticeship on top of all those things? Chris, do you want to take on that one?
Yeah, no, and I think this is a huge thing that we have really at the nascent stage of discussions with state education department. Obviously, we don't want to take young people away from, their schoolwork and completing high school. I think that would be detrimental. But that said, I think there is a lot of opportunity for making way to incorporate credit-bearing job training as part of high school curriculum. And we've been talking a lot with state ed about this. There's a lot of interest around it. We know there are school districts that have, started to jump in on this. And I think this is a lot of where we're going to see movement in the months and years to come. But no, you are absolutely spot on. I think today, with so much going on, it can be overwhelming. It's a matter of, I think, really making way for incorporating this as part of a high school credential that you're earning. Kind of how do we do that?
And I think pre-apprenticeship can be that pathway for that too, right, Chris? And not the full-blown apprenticeship, more of a pre-apprenticeship space, which is a lot of what we're looking at doing. And how do you tie in internships and next steps and boot camps? And then when they leave high school, they might go into apprenticeship.
And I would also, on that note, point that Taylor Pelcher is on the call. I don't know if she's on her computer or not, but she's part of the Harvest New York CCE team who are leading those agriculture workforce and processing boot camps. So that's one of those exposure points, getting your students who you think would be in that path to be able to have 3 days or one. I think they're transitioning their program a little bit to be a one-day experience where they can have experiences around what happens in a dairy processing plant. It's right. I live in I live in Lewis County, so I drive by the Kraft plant every single day, and there are big fences and there are no windows. And so I think a lot of our students don't know what happens inside of those walls. And so I really love that the Workforce Bootcamp is able to bring those experiences of the processes that happen every single day in a dairy processing plant to the students in the classroom space. Also letting them hear from people who started out from high school in dairy processing and how their careers have advanced, letting them see who these people are, that they're people in their communities. So I think the more opportunities we connect people with our students, the more chances that we'll be able to fill that workforce pipeline. And although a lot of the research coming out now is saying that parents, Julia mentioned thinking about her own student, her own children, I want to plan for my student for my child to be able to push them in that direction. And a lot of the research is showing that parents are the ones who are helping direct what that next step looks like after high school. So who are we really talking to, and how do we have to tailor that message in a way that the parents understand, appreciate, and then can encourage their child to pursue.
Excellent. I see that Taylor posted a nice message there in the chat. So she is welcoming questions and comments to her email address there. And we just have a couple minutes left, but we have one more question that I think is a good one to end us on today. So a question for Julia, Kim, Terry. We talked a little bit about the skills, or the soft skills that employers are looking for from employees, new entrants into your workforce, particularly high school students upon graduation. Can you give us a couple examples of the skill level? What are you looking for from those students? Is there a targeted ability level, knowledge level do you like to see in these students emerge from high school so they can thrive in an entry level job in your businesses?
I know it, of course, it's going to depend on the job, especially and the probably the size of the farm. My husband and I have talked about this. We would love to have the BOCES kids that go through the machinery programs over there, even if they just came here and changed oil, filled tires, that kind of thing. It's giving them a start. Farms definitely have enough of the quote unquote smaller type jobs for these high school students to come over and get their feet wet, to be able to, see if this is maybe something they want to do, to encourage them to go further in their education or further in an apprenticeship or an internship kind of program. The same with any kind of calf feeding. You can put a high school student with one of your calf feeders, and they can dump water bucket. There's a lot of little things that they can do to start out to get their feet wet. That's just my theory. Of course, you can go deeper into skill levels as they get older. But those kids that are coming right out of high school, and even if they haven't graduated yet, you get kids that are looking to come work on the farm. And a lot of times it's harder on a big farm because we have a lot of big equipment. They don't know how to really operate that. We've got working with the animals, but there are a lot of little things that they can start to do to get their feet wet on these bigger farms to see if this is the direction that they want to go. And it also helps us as farmers to encourage them to go that direction. That's just my opinion.
I would concur with Terry on all of that. And I'll add, I guess, the two things I would like students to understand is team play. So you have to work with others, and the give and take of all that team play. You help others, they'll help you. And then the second is, don't expect to start out at the middle level or the top. Be willing to do some of the dirty work first and work your way up. And if you're willing to jump in and just get work done, then opportunities will come your way.
So yeah, and I agree that often depends what job you're looking at starting in, but you start talking just the production floor and entry, very, very entry level. It goes back to those soft skills of like, we need you to show up on time for your shift. We need you to complete your shift. We need you to be able to learn. We're going to train you, but we need you to be able to learn, and have a reasonably decent attitude. And, you know, and then I think I'd say that's the core, right? And we struggle sometimes to find that, right? And we saw that in our classrooms, you know, I saw that all the time. So once we have that basis, you know, if you know, someone has that desire to learn and that desire to pull themselves up, we love to promote from within. And that's a lot of the exciting work that I'm getting to do right now, is to build that pathway and those leadership programs and those development programs. And we're really paying for it for them. We're not asking them to pay for that. And we're willing to move you right up into high level management positions. And we have all sorts of people that have come up all the way from the bottom of the floor, and are now plant managers within our organization. So tons and tons of opportunity. And then even on the side, there are credit bearing. I'm trying to find creative ways that how can we bring credit bearing college work to people for reduced cost or free. But you know, at the end of the day, right, people have to want to pull their own rope. And I'd say that's probably the core thing we need them to do. Do you want to pull your own rope? And I can't do that for them.
Great. Thank you all for sharing your perspectives. So we have had a lot of generous offers here in the chat from some folks from Cornell, from SED, offering to engage with any of our participants to further this discussion. So thank you all. Thank you, Kelly, for that offer to send more information about both these CTE programs and work-based learning opportunities. So folks, we are right at the end of our call here. So you will receive an email after this webinar ends with the slide deck. This recording will be on the department's website, hopefully in the next couple days. I will send a link to everyone when it's posted so you can share with your colleagues who weren't able to join us live this afternoon. And you will receive a link to a post-webinar survey. Just a couple of quick questions, we promise. It's not too painful, to give us some suggestions and feedback on how to improve the webinar. And maybe as a good enticement for you to complete the survey is many of the folks here in our call, our guest speakers, have offered the opportunity to talk with you further, to provide opportunities for field trips, experiences. Chris from the Department of Labor is offering those virtual reality headsets for classroom use. So please take a look at that survey so we can connect you further with our panelists. And Jen, any last minute sign off?
Is that to me? Sorry.
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to end us out on a happy note. This is such an exciting opportunity and challenge at the same time that we're all facing. I think we had a really great discussion. The careers as were laid out are endless, and the future is ours to take, essentially. And you know, when Terry was talking about the seed, I think that that's really what we're trying to do here. So spot on, Terry, for planting the seed. We want to have these conversations. We're happy to have them, but this is just the beginning. Whether it's conversations that all of you are going to have with students, with parents, to kind of really get them engaged, because we want the parents to know that the careers that their kids are going to take on or explore further are something that they will prosper in the future. So any way we can kind of engage, we are all here. Obviously, everybody is very excited to even talk about this. We couldn't even keep ourselves to an hour. That just kind of shows you what we all have ahead of us. But we're all very interested. We're all very engaged. And, you know, thank you, everybody, for joining and for all of your participation and feedback today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Keep an eye on your inboxes for that survey link in the slide deck. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.